Bugs in video games are interesting. On one hand, if your game is plagued with bugs, it can completely cripple the success of the game. And then on the other hand, a game with wacky bugs ends up being better that way. League of Legends sits somewhere in the middle. Some bugs can become features and others totally ruin the game. Today we take a look at instances when the developers took a while to fix certain bugs or features. And did you know, some of these features are actually skins. Riot has classified certain skins as competitive advantages, therefore banning them from being used in professional tournaments. But you yourself can go take advantage of these skins in solo queue whenever you want. And if you're low on RP, I think Buff, the sponsor of today's video, can help. Buff is a loyalty program approved by Overwolf that rewards you for playing the games you would already be playing. The app runs in the background, only tracking your in-game stats and gives you points for all the games you play. And in case you're worried, it does not hog up any of your precious resources. These points can later be exchanged for a variety of rewards, like in-game skins, Steam credits, gift cards for the games you play, and of course that includes League of Legends. So next time you lose 20 LP after a 50-minute game, you can at least be thankful that you got some buff points for your time. If any of this sounds good to you, download Buff for free with the first link in the description. Let's begin with something that happened recently. On April 23rd, 2022, the player Danny performed an incredible pentakill in the LCS semifinals. But something weird happened in it that most people didn't catch on the live stream. Take a look for yourself and see if you can find anything strange.
2v5 is possible. I mean, you're not going to stop the Baron, but you might get a team fight. He's going to shoot. You're kidding me. Centauran fights early. Kill number 1. Here comes kill number 2. Danny's in for number 3. For 4. The king of pentakill. Oh my God. You gotta be kidding me.
The clip of this pentakill went pretty viral. The play was so explosive that the LoL esports YouTube account even labeled it the greatest play in LCS history, ? All based on what was technically something that shouldn't have happened, because the Baron healed mid-fight. In less than 1 second, the Baron's health goes from 985 to 895, 908, and then 1088. Here the jungler smites, doing 900 damage, along with an auto attack, and the Baron stays alive at 155 HP. And Jinx's one auto attack steals it, completely shifting the entire momentum of the fight. The reason this happened is because the game timer goes from 28 minutes and 59 seconds to 29 minutes. Every minute, the Baron levels up, in turn gaining more health. Essentially, a complete unfortunate disaster for the jungler who correctly used Smite at the right time. But what makes the situation even more interesting is that we know for a fact that this is a mistake by Riot, because exactly 31 days later, Riot would make a patch note addressing that the Baron will now wait 30 seconds after taking damage before leveling up. And the cherry on top, the patch note was labeled "No more unlucky." But despite Riot fixing the interaction, time does not rewind. Jinx left with a great highlight reel and the losing team got eliminated. Quite unlucky. Now you know what's also unlucky? When the enemy team dives your tower and the tower completely ignores the enemy.
I'd probably die if I stay here. Alright! What the f***? What? What just happened?
Now before I explain, this bug is very interesting by itself, but what's crazy is that while looking for clips and examples of this bug occurring, I basically found instances of this happening at least once each year for the past 5 years. This video explaining the bug is from 2017, and this Reddit post with 20,000 upvotes is from August of 2021.
This tower bug is extremely repeatable. What you're looking for is, see the line on the tower? That goes away for a second. I'm assuming that's what the tower is targeting. When it goes away, if you auto attack in the duration when that's switching targets after a minion is killed, gone, back on a target, gone, back on a target, gone, you will not take tower aggro. It's the timing's pretty small, so it's not always able to get on the first shot, but look at that. Not only does it work on auto attacks, it also works on abilities. So watch, it's gonna go away, hit it, doesn't do it, E the dummy, E the dummy. I mean, that's a lot of damage. So yeah, I don't know.
On top of what's explained in this video, there's an alternate bug where if two champions dive an enemy, like what you're seeing on screen right now, the tower can get confused and still focus on the first champion that did damage, despite the fact that that champion is dead. Now, I actually didn't find an example of this in 2022, so it may have been fixed, but I wouldn't be surprised if the issue returns, as that does seem to be a pattern for some of the more annoying bugs in the game. Additionally, people often ask why Riot doesn't just fix things. And the truth is, they can acknowledge some problems, but some of these bugs happen so infrequently that they hardly bother a significant percentage of the player base. Now, on the flip side, Riot has in the past somewhat ignored bugs and then been quick to fix them once they appear in a professional match. That bug where Herald runs into a tower and does 0 damage had multiple Reddit posts with a bunch of upvotes, but it seemed Riot attempted to actively fix it only after it appeared in a professional game.
Ever getting tagged by something from Showmaker, he will cash in on all this gold here. What is happening there?
Now, sometimes pro players discover a problem within the game that turns out to be harder to fix than expected. So the solution, just disable the champion. There, problem solved. What's interesting about this is that oftentimes a league like the LCS will have a champion restricted for an extended period of time, but it will still be available to play in solo queue. I suppose because someone at Riot determines that the bug is either difficult to reproduce or doesn't actually give an advantage. Just perhaps an inconvenience. But sometimes these bugs are pretty significant. A few years ago, the LCS disabled Shen. This is because in the game between CLG and Curse, this Kha'Zix is going into a team fight because Shen is ulting onto him. Shen's ult finishes, and where's Shen?
A nice force right there, but yet never made it into the fight. We'll see what happened there.
What happened here is a bug that would cause Shen's ult to cancel itself upon completion. Despite the fact that this ult basically can't be cancelled unless Shen is stunned or he dies. Later after that, the LoL Esports Twitter account would announce that Shen is now banned from being played in the LCS. The guy who was playing Kha'Zix would follow that tweet with "Shen disabled in LCS now due to the bug that ultimately lost us the game. Happy face. Glad we didn't remake the game since we lost it early anyway." This was a passive-aggressive tweet, as that was an unfair way to lose an important game. But what stands out here is that although Riot acknowledged that this bug can ruin games, they didn't disable him in the regular game. Meaning, hey, we don't want our pro games being ruined by this unfortunate circumstance, but you savages playing in your ranked matches can deal with this on your own. And honestly, there are probably lots of bugs that never got urgently fixed due to not having great exposure. Just recently, Warwick went a whole patch doing either more damage on his Q, or just simply his Q would completely go off cooldown if it killed a unit. That is obviously overpowered and was basically a major buff to players who knew how this bug occurred.
Warwick's like the most cracked champion ever. This guy is 100% bug abusing! He's already seeing this! He's queuing every 2 seconds!
Later on, they would announce their bug fix, which literally just said, "Now is properly placed on cooldown when it kills the target." I'm sure there's lots of wacky bugs on super unpopular champions that go unnoticed or unfixed, for long periods of time. Because literally less than 2% of the player base actually plays these champions, so we're less likely to see any unusual interactions. Simply seeing Skarner in any of my games is unusual as is.